On game night, there's only one food delivery service that's a real slam dunk. Grubhub's got you covered with game time eats, late night treats, lazy lunches, family dinners, and more. It's all on Grubhub. And now Amazon Prime members get a year of Grubhub Plus for free. So you pay zero delivery fees when you order. Visit goforgrubhub.com/Amazon for details. And with the holidays right around the corner, Grubhub gift cards are the perfect gift for everyone on your list. Download the Grubhub app today. Go for Grubhub.
This holiday, Audible invites you to listen in on some of today's most creative musicians telling their stories in their own words. Origins is an Audible Originals podcast series featuring music and memories from artists like Billie Eilish, Camilo, Doja Cat, Flying Lotus, and more. Discover what shaped their creativity and get drawn into the immersive sound design that lets you feel the experiences that inspired them. Start listening to this innovative new series at audible.com/origins.
AT&T believes that if you want a smartphone, you should get the best deal on that smartphone, no matter what kind of smartphone person you are. People who reply to texts immediately. Emoji overtexters, emoji haters, custom emoji makers, app personalizers, and alphabetizers. Even those who blast music off their phone at the gym. At AT&T, we give new and existing customers our best deals on every smartphone. Save up to $1,000 on our most popular smartphones with eligible trade-in. Offers vary by device. Terms and restrictions apply. See AT&T.com or visit an AT&T store for details.
Hi there, I'm Zach Braff.
And I'm Donald Faison.
We're real-life best friends, but we met playing fake-life best friends, Turk and JD, on the sitcom Scrubs.
20 years later, we've decided to rewatch the series one episode at a time and put our memories into a podcast you can listen to at home.
We're going to get all our special guest friends like Sarah Chalk, John C. McGinley, Neil Flynn, Judy Reyes.
Show creator Bill Lawrence, editors, writers, and even prop masters will tell us about what inspired the series and how we became a family.
You can listen to the podcast Fake Doctors, Real Friends with Zach and Donald on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, and wherever you get your podcasts.
This is the Jabberjaw Podcast Network.
You've probably always wanted to learn an instrument, right? Let Musician be your guide. It is an amazing app that is your personal music tutor. It's the best way to learn, practice, and master an instrument, and it listens to you play and gives you feedback in real time on your accuracy and your timing. Become the musician you've always wanted to be. Visit musician.com/words to try Musician with a 20% discount using the code WORDS. This thing is amazing. Try it out. You'll love it. How are you doing? Welcome to 100 Words or Less, the podcast. We're hanging out here. Actually, I'm recording this a little in advance because when I release the episode, I will be in a plane going to Cincinnati, Ohio, which, isn't the most glamorous city in the world. Sorry if you are from Cincinnati, but, doing some work stuff there over a couple of days. So if you get this and you listen to the podcast on a Wednesday or Thursday, hit me up because I'd love to hang in the evenings, So yeah, hit me up. Xpurpose X. You can find me on pretty much any social media network. So anyways, that's that. But we have a guest this week, and he is Issac Hale from Knocked Loose. And frankly, more importantly, sorry, don't mean to throw any shade on Knocked Loose because I do like them very much, but Inclination. Inclination is a very, very good straight-edge hardcore band from Louisville, which that's where, Knocked Loose is from. But they put out a EP on Pure Noise Records recently. They also have an incredible demo. Issac is the brainchild behind this thing, and oh my gosh, it ticks off so many boxes for me personally. I feel like I'm targeted. I feel like this band was specifically created for me, and that is a beautiful thing. But more on him in a moment. Let's talk about rockabilia.com. You need to order your merch and use the code PCJabberjaw that gets you 10% off your order. They have 500,000 items. That's 500,000 items, hoodies, long sleeves, whatever you could possibly want, they have. Fast shipping, great customer service. I can't say enough positive things about this company, but I will because you need to order from it right away. Please drop what you're doing. Check out their amazing store. They have everything imaginable from basically any band you could probably wrap your head around. So go to rockabilia.com, get yourself 10% off by using the code PCJabberjaw. I love what they do, so thank you for the support, Rockabilia. Before I talk about more about Issac and, well, first of all, if you're here, thank you for listening to the show because we've been getting a lot of recent subscribers to this thing and more traction. The only way, the truest way for this show to spread around to enough people is by personal recommendations, okay? So tell one of your friends, maybe your best friend, maybe a, other person who is interested in independent music. Please tell them because that's the only way that this thing gets out to more and more people. And I really, really enjoy when people find a thing because then they are like, oh my gosh, there's like 6 years worth of shows that I can get into. And I'm like, that's why we're here. That's why I'm doing what I am doing. It's evergreen content, people. Okay. So tell your friends. On a somewhat, I guess it's sobering. It's weird. So I feel weird today because I am recording this on Monday. And for those of you that have followed the show for quite some time know that my wife has gone through some struggles with, sorry, this gets me a little choked up, but she was diagnosed with cancer many years ago. Well, not many, like around 2.5 years ago, went through chemotherapy, went through some surgeries. She's been doing really, really well. Everything is okay, but we're in this testing phase right now where this morning she got a test and now we have to wait for, a day, 2 days maybe for us to kind of get the results and like, oh, this is, nothing to worry about or this is something to worry about. And, let me tell you, I hate this. I hate this feeling. And for those of you that have gone through any sort of medical scares or testing, you know what I'm talking about. It's just that anxiety that kind of, it's like you exist in your body and you kind of go throughout your day like you normally would, but in the back of your head, you're just like, gosh, I want to know like right now. I have to be patient. I have to be calm. I have to live in the present because otherwise it just kind of swallows you up. But yeah, so please, hopefully by Wednesday when you are listening to this thing, that I'll be able to share on the following episode that there is nothing to worry about. That's what I want to share with you. Whether that happens or not is a different story. But regardless, I will keep you up to date. And thank you for listening to me because that's, we're all humans in this weird world. And when we share our experiences, I think more positive things come out of it than negative things. And there's no way that I could sit here on this microphone and tell you that I'm in like the best mood possible. I am excited to share this conversation with you that I had with Issac, but it's that weird feeling. So yeah, that's that. It's weighing heavy on me. But anyways, Issac Hale, like I said, love his bands. Love what he does. I had to get him on, and we were able to do this over Skype, basically right before they left on tour. And some of you ask, you're like, why don't you do more in-person interviews? A lot of it is just scheduling. It's really, really difficult to sometimes get out to a show, and then plus, if I'm interviewing people at a show, it's sometimes a really chaotic environment, and it's really, really difficult to kind of get in an environment in which it is somewhat controlled and people aren't walking in on us all the time. So anyway, sometimes it's just easier. And I want to get the show out to you because I think these conversations I'm having with people are still really meaningful. It's not like I'm losing anything really connectivity wise with these people because, people are sharing about their lives. And I think that can happen, across different mediums. So anyways, we chatted with Issac, and I did, but I am bringing it to you. So here is Issac, and I'll talk to you, of course, after the episode.
And like I said over email when I reached out to you, Inclination was one of those things where it's just like, you know what it's like when you discover a band, like someone keys you into it and you're just like, oh dude, I think this was made specifically for me as a human being. I felt so targeted in the best way possible where I was like, oh man, like I'm edge. I like to sing about it, straight edge things. Good. And I just, yeah. So
that's awesome. Thank you. I appreciate that. I really do.
You're welcome. And I think part of it too, why I enjoyed it so much is that I get, because I mean, clearly, I'm 38 years old, so like I am, an adult, whatever that means. But the idea that younger people are picking up the torch in so many different respects, and specifically to that style of music and message, was it? I'm guessing that was kind of your sort of jumping off point, where it was just like, hey, this is the type of music I really enjoy, and I am straight edge myself, and I just want to like put this out there in the most I guess kind of aggressive way possible. I guess walk me through your headspace. Is basically just a fun project for you to do.
Yeah, it was. So I'm consistently writing music pretty much all the time, whether it's for my other band Knocked Loose or Inclination or anything else. I'm always putting stuff down. This band was actually the first record that we put out a couple years back. Was actually it was actually just something that I was putting down myself. I just felt inspired to write in a certain style. Specifically, I was listening to a lot of like kind of early Strife stuff, and that's that era of hardcore, that era of straight edge hardcore, and I was feeling inspired to write something, and that actually I wrote the entire thing, and that turned into Inclination. It wasn't written as Inclination. Okay. It was written as, man, I'm feeling really inspired to write. I'm feeling really inspired to write this stuff right now, and so I wrote that entire first record. And then my good friend Tyler was like, he was like, hey, this should be the straight edge band we always wanted to start. And he put vocals on it, and that's when it started to actually turn into what it is today, I think.
Nice. I love that idea of you just sitting there listening to In This Defiance and being like, you know what? Like, I think I want to write something that's like modeled after this.
That was literally what it was. That was what it was. I was listening to a lot of stuff from that era. I was just like, God damn, this is so fucking sick. This is like straight edge crazy music. Is what it is. It's just crazy straight edge music. And I felt so inspired by it, and I still do. And that's what inspired that record, and is what inspired Inclination to what it is now.
Nice. And I do like that, because it is, it really is just that pure expression of a person getting influenced by not only a record, but a sound and a time and a place. And usually those things predate, where it's like, I mean, yes, of course, like you can see Strife, any day of the week now, because they play out a decent amount. But that idea, like there was a band, and I'm sure you're familiar with the band, Excessive Force. Like, oh, for sure.
I mean, that's another one of my favorite straight edge records, for sure.
Right.
So.
And I never got to see them myself, even though they exist in Southern California. I just started to go to shows after they had broken up. But it's that feeling of listening to it and being like, oh man, like this is so hard. I want to like exist in this world.
Oh yeah. Excessive Force is like even another step forward totally. Where it's so mean that they don't even know what they're saying, really. They just know that it's straight edge and that it's mean, and it's just so badass. It's like straight edge killing people music, really.
Totally. Really it is funny you label it like that, because it definitely is something that, if you listen to it when you're 15 or 16 years old, you clearly think you're like the hardest person of all time.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
But then to your point, it is it is this like caricature of like what, like there's no way. I mean, I'm speaking for myself. Like, I've never beaten anybody up because they're not straight edge,
Oh, no, very much not.
Yeah, no, that's cool. But it's funny because I put almost all of these impressions in my head of like where you were when you were writing that, because I presume you're talking about the 5-song demo that you put out, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so like I almost could have like delivered a script to you of all of those things that you just told me, and you'd been like, oh yeah, I agree with that.
So, exactly. Which part of the song rips off which part of this other song.
Sure. Right. And the harvest homage you have in there as well.
Oh, for sure, dude. For sure.
No, that's
funny story about that. So I was at This Is Hardcore, and Harvest was playing. And legitimately, I like a couple Harvest songs, and that's it. Straight up, I watched that This Is Hardcore set, and I was like, yeah, it's pretty cool. I'm having a good time. I'm in there. And they started playing Epicure, and I literally gave my girlfriend my bag, and I was just like, hold on, I'll be right back. And I moshed to that part and then came back just to say that I moshed to the part that I ripped off. And it was an ultimate moment for me.
Dude, I love that. I had the opportunity to tour with Season of Fire, which was Dave's band.
Yeah.
And it was funny because like they did not make any bones about the fact that they, clearly came from Harvest. They actually covered Epicure every night of the tour. And it was
really,
oh dude.
Wow.
And it was so funny because like, people heard about this in advance. And so there were people who were like, yeah, Season of Fire song's cool. But the moment they played Epicure, like you said, it was basically like, all of a sudden 40 people came out of the woodworks and just mocked to that song.
Let's fucking go. Like, let's go. Now's the time. No,
totally. That's cool. So kind of, reflecting on you as a person, were you, did you kind of come up in the same, I know you came up in the same scene as, Brian and everything like that, but like, were you born and raised in Louisville? I know you guys rep Oldham County and,
Yes, sir.
Walk me through, your upbringing from that perspective.
Yeah. So, I'll kind of give you the gist of it. Basically ever since I was a little kid, little kid, I always music was the path I wanted to take. I started taking like piano, playing guitar, playing drums at a really young age. I started doing all of it real young. And my dad was also super into it because he was kind of a metal guy, metal adjacent guy. So growing up, I always wanted to play in a band, play music. I was super into metal. I was a metal guy first. I didn't come into hardcore through punk. I came into hardcore through metal. And so I was listening to a lot of like Metallica and Slayer and fucking, Cannibal Corpse, obnoxious shit, like I was into everything. There wasn't much that I didn't like. And then, I'm actually way younger than all the rest of the dudes in Knocked Loose. The rest of the dudes, I'm 21 years old, and most members of Knocked Loose are a couple years older than me. Basically what happened was I found myself, how I got into hardcore was basically my dad was a metal guy and my mom was a Baptist Christian gal. And so they don't mix too well, really. So I was listening to all this hard ass stuff, this death metal stuff, all this shit. And she was not too stoked on it a lot of the time. And so basically what I would do to solve this problem is when I was like somewhere between 10, 13, 14, between those areas, I would buy these comps and they would be like Christian metal and hardcore comps.
Of course.
And so when she was like, oh, I don't like you listening to this stuff, I'd be like, but you have to like it. It's Christian. See, read the label. Like I found the loophole so that you can't be mad at me. So basically through like Face Down comps, Solid State comps, there was a couple bands on that. I think it's the Only for the Strong comp.
Oh yeah, totally.
Basically I started listening to bands like Zao, No Innocent Victim, Figure 4, Comeback Kid, stuff like that. Even like metalcore stuff like Haste the Day, like shit like that. I was super into all of that stuff. And through that, I started getting into playing shows with my friends, playing in bands. I've actually been playing music with two or three of the dudes in Knocked Loose ever since I was like 13 or 14. And I was like the high school kid that they hung out with while they were all graduated. And so it was kind of weird because they would hang out with me and I was way younger. So I was basically this way younger kid that was playing music with these older guys. And it wasn't specifically hardcore. It was like, there was a couple bands that I was aware of, that were hardcore bands, but I wasn't really aware about the hardcore scene until about 13 or 14 when the bands that I was in started playing with Louisville hardcore bands like Another Mistake and Damaged Goods and Ill Advised that were around at the time. And so around 13 or 14, I really started discovering hardcore and discovering going to shows. And I really started going to shows around early high school. And I just kind of dove straight into it because once Knocked Loose started playing around 2014-ish, 2015-ish, I just started going to every show and started making friends. And the Midwest has a really, really tight community of people that have shows and, just hang out and all that. So around 13 or 14, I really, really started listening to hardcore and playing it and being aware of it, hardcore, as it is. And it was really, really cool. It was a really positive experience because Louisville and the Midwest in general has a very tight-knit community of people. There's very little elitism or judgment from older heads. So I had a lot of people that were a positive light to me, just showing me bands, showing me the way, showing me the cool stuff to listen to, teaching me about the past, teaching me about other hardcore bands and new old hardcore bands. And it was a very positive and exciting time for me coming up. I can't say enough good things. And I'm still feeling that today because I'm only 21 and I know probably realistically hardcore is there's so many bands. There's such a vast community that there's so much to learn, and I still feel like I'm learning new stuff every day. So, ever since I found it, since I was like 13, 14 years old, I've been so obsessed with it, and I've been blessed to be around a really, really cool, tight-knit community of friends that are willing to show me new bands and, bring bands into Louisville to play shows. And so it was a very, very positive upbringing into that style of music, and I'm still super grateful about that.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. I appreciate you laying it out like that. There's a few things I wanted to pick out in there where do you have brothers or sisters?
I have one younger brother. Yeah.
Okay, cool. And so the description that you had of your parents, very oil and water in regards to so was your dad like not religious whatsoever?
No. My parents get along fine. They were both religious. It was both great. But my dad was always like, he liked dad stuff. He liked Jimi Hendrix and Metallica and Led Zeppelin and Sabbath. And then when I started getting to leaning into that world, he embraced it. He was like, oh yeah. And my dad and me kind of grew into more aggressive music together. I would show him bands, he would show me bands, and we kind of grew in that. We kind of grew in that aspect together where we would show each other music, and it was really exciting. We were basically getting into the same music at the same time. And to this day, he's into a bunch of hardcore and I'm into a bunch of hardcore because of each other. So it was a real cool back and forth that still exists to this day. And that's really, really cool. And my mom she's a mom,
she's protective.
She's your classic, like, oh, the music's great. I wish I could understand what they were saying. You know the type of thing that I'm talking about. She's incredible. My parents are perfect and supportive and great. But my dad was the heavy music guy. My mom was the Christian contemporary gal, and that's still the way it is, I think. Yeah.
No, that dichotomy, I wasn't meaning to paint it as like, oh, your parents were constantly fighting because they
No. Yeah, I know you didn't mean it that way, but it's like a pretty common situation, I feel like, where the mom is into, what like Hillsong United, right? And the dad is just jamming Jimi Hendrix super loud.
Sure. No, I mean it is cool because usually that bonding does not happen from a musical perspective, because usually the kids look at the music that the parents listen to as like unequivocally lame, especially once they are of an age where they can, maybe have their own influences, whatever, 10, 11, 12. But it's just rad that you were getting dialed into a lot of this stuff. And, I could easily see you being like, hey, Dad, check out Butchered at Birth. Like, this is a pretty good record. And
oh, yeah, absolutely. And my dad is way more like clocked in than people think. Like, my dad showed me the band Power Trip when I was young. He showed me Power Trip because he was like, hey, you know how we like thrash, right? And I was like, yeah. He was like, there's this band that sounds exactly like that, but it's out now. And I was like, what? And he was like, yeah, check it out. And that's literally how that happened. And that happens to this day. Like, even now, I'll show him music and he'll show me music. And we can have discussions about music, not in like a dad versus son way, but like a hardcore kid to musician way, that's not like, that doesn't feel like I'm teaching him about a world that's completely alien. And that was a really, really cool relationship that I still have with my dad that I think inspired me to be how I am today with music. And all the music that my parents showed me growing up, I was still into. I was never a dude that thought that the music they listened to was lame, really, because I'm a super open book and I'm super open to everything. So my dad showed me a bunch of shit growing up, like Jimi Hendrix, Robert Johnson, Stevie Ray Vaughan, like all that stuff. And I still love all of that music. Like, I was never the only hardcore kid, only metal kid guy. I was just constantly taking everything in and enjoying all of it always. And that's still pretty much how I am today. So.
Sure. No, honestly, the thing that you said in there that is really telling to me is you were like, your dad bringing you Power Trip, and it's like, hey, you know how we like thrash? Like, that's just such a, I can't think of any other word besides like adorable, where it's just like, it's so cute.
It was so wholesome. It's so cool. And he still gets that way about new bands. And it's so sick because we relate the music now that we listen to the music we listened to when we were younger. And he has his taste and I have my taste.
Let me solve all of your holiday shopping problems right now by talking to you about the premium audio products from Raycon. They have wireless earbuds, headphones, and speakers that offer premium sound. I personally adore the wireless earbuds. I've been using them for 4 or 5 years. They got a ton of battery life. We're talking 54 plus hours. It's incredible. And honestly, I have gotten them for gifts for my significant other. I've gotten them for my family and friends, and they all come back to me and they're like, dude, this is incredible. Why have I never used these before? And I'm like, I don't know. That's your fault. That's why I am here to help you. And for the next month, Raycon will have a countdown to Christmas with a new pop-up flash deal for you to take advantage of every single day. Now, what can you do? You can go to buyraycon.com/Ray and get the best deals around. That gets you 15% off site-wide with code HOLIDAY plus free shipping. That is code HOLIDAY at buyraycon.com/Ray for 15% off your Raycon purchase and then free shipping. So again, go to buyraycon.com/Ray, solve all of your shopping problems, and then maybe, toss a pair of headphones there for you. Okay? Maybe just an idea, but thank you, Raycon, and buy them now.
Explore new cultures and experiences with Intrepid Travel. Intrepid specializes in socially conscious travel with over 900 amazing small group adventures to choose from in more than 100 countries. Whether it's the mountaintop vistas of the Andes, the wildlife of Tanzania, or the hidden noodle bars of Vietnam, Intrepid is there. There to get you off the beaten track, behind the scenes, and totally immersed in the joy of travel. Discover more at intrepidtravel.com. Intrepid Travel. Travel is back for good.
What's the worst thing about sports? Oh. That's right, all those breaks in play. But you can make them all better by using Grubhub. You wouldn't have a movie night without snacks, so why would you settle for a halftime without food? Grubhub has every food you could possibly crave, from national favorites to local spots. Reorder your regulars or find something brand lip-smackingly new. You can search by city, cuisine, restaurant name, or if it's a firm favorite, even by menu item. Delivered on time at the lowest price. Order through the Grubhub app or online at grubhub.com. That's grubhub.com. And of course, don't forget, with the holidays right around the corner, Grubhub gift cards are the perfect gift for everyone on your list. Now Amazon Prime members get a year of Grubhub Plus for free. That's $0 food delivery fees from your favorite restaurants. Visit goforgrubhub.com/Amazon for terms and details. Go for Grubhub.
Taste, and we have shared tastes, and it was a really, really positive experience for me, and I'm really, really glad that I'm able to have that relationship with him.
Yeah, no, it's really cool. What does your parents do for a living? Or
my dad is a software programmer. He's a computer programmer with Bentley Systems, and my mom is she's actually a teacher at an alternative high school.
Got it.
So yeah, very different jobs. My dad works from home, so we get to hang out all the time. And my mom just works at the school down the road. So whenever I'm home from touring, we get to hang out all the time. And it's awesome.
I'm excited to partner up with SiriusXM because they bring you the deepest variety of commercial-free music for every genre and every single mood. Now, most of you know what SiriusXM is, but did you know that you can listen to this outside the car? So right now, you can get your first 3 months of SiriusXM outside the car for just $1. Go to SiriusXM.com/words to see the offer details and subscribe. So I can't tell you how much I love SiriusXM. I've been a subscriber for many, many years. They've got amazing, amazing stations for music, great talk radio and profiles from that perspective. And for $1, you can listen to SiriusXM on your phone, at home, and online. So anywhere you are, any time of the day, you can hear your favorite songs or discover new ones. Go to Sirius, SiriusXM.com/words and get your first 3 months of SiriusXM outside the car for $1. Of course, you got to see the offer details, and the offer is available to new SiriusXM streaming subscribers. SiriusXM, no car required. Get into this. This is such an amazing offer for so much good music, okay? Please dive in and you will enjoy it, okay? Now on with the show.
And so it sounds like, when you were getting exposed to music, like it was a very early age and you always had this real, large experience within getting exposed to a bunch of bands and stuff like that. And like you said, you really, dove into it once, Knock Loose started to play as far as like the hardcore scene was concerned.
Yes.
Like, did your dad take you to like your first hardcore show, or like, what was that scenario?
My
like?
dad took me before I could drive. My dad took me and attended every show with me.
That's so cool.
He took me, attended every show, and he was up front with me, like hanging out with me. I remember, like, specifically for an example, he went to see a Twitching Tongues show with me because we both really, really liked Twitching Tongues. And he was up front singing the lyrics to Twitching Tongues songs with me. And my dad's in a wheelchair. He's been in a wheelchair since he was about 21 years old, I think. And he never let that stop him at all. And so he's just out in the front, like fucking rocking out to Twitching Tongues, like while I'm also doing that. And at one point I go to the back and he's still up there, and there's like a mosh part that happens and he gets knocked over in his wheelchair. And of course I freak out and I'm like, oh my God, my dad, like, oh my God. And I go over there to like, I pick him back up, pick his wheelchair up, and I'm like, oh, you okay? We got to go. And he's like, no, fuck that. I got to stay. Like, that was sick. And there was just so many times when adorable shit like that happened. Like, he came, not so much anymore, but back in the day when I first started coming to shows, he went to every show with me, and he'll still talk about some of the shows that we went to together. Like, we saw Cruel Hand together. We saw Twitching Tongues together. We saw all these shows together, and there's a million stories I could tell. But yeah, he would take me to shows and we would go to them together and we would come back together. And then once I started driving, he started chilling at home a lot more, but he's still totally into it. And yeah, for the first couple years we were a package deal where he would be there and I would be there, and we would just both be hanging out. And to this day, a bunch of people that are in the hardcore scene now just are always like, hey, I hope your dad's doing okay. He used to come out all the time. And I was just like, yeah, he still loves it. He's just, a little bit busier now. But yeah, he used to come to every show, man. And it was always sick.
Yeah.
Sure.
No, it's cool because not only is that not common for most people to have that experience, but then on top of that, like you mentioned, your dad's in a wheelchair, so it's like I could easily see him becoming that sort of fixture of a scene where it's just like, oh yeah, dude, like Isaac's dad's rolling out, like
yeah, exactly. That's how my parents were for a really long time because I, lived with my parents, and my house was also the house where bands stay. So we would go to these shows and we would always put up the bands in our house, like me and my dad would.
Who stayed there?
Oh my God, dude.
Just a few. Cause I find that so funny.
So many. Yeah, it's cool. I mean, a bunch of bands that are out now, like Vane has stayed at my house a million times. Like fucking, like all of my friends' band, it's a lot of it is like bands, smaller bands, but it was like Vane stayed here, Spitback stayed here, my friend's band I Disappear stayed here.
That's so rad.
Upright stayed here, it's Left Behind stayed here. Like it's so many that I can't even begin to describe. Sanction, Detriment, a bunch of the Long Island bands all stayed here. A bunch of the Philly bands, Jesus Peace, they stayed here. Like pretty much endless amounts of bands have been inside my living room. And me and my dad would always just put up these bands. And my house is also the practice spot. Me and my dad we had a garage that we weren't using, and we built a studio, kind of makeshift studio practice space in there. Mm-hmm. That has like all this equipment set up, and I record bands out of here. I record a bunch of the Louisville bands, and I mix and master stuff. And so yeah, bands have always practiced at my house too, and recorded stuff at my house. Bands will record with me and then get me to send it out to mix and master. So it was kind of just like a little Isaac and my dad hub, that hardcore hub that we kind of created. And yeah, it was really, really cool, man. It was really exciting, and it's still exciting. And a lot of it doesn't exist as much anymore because I'm just gone all the time.
Right.
And I'm gone. Like Knock Loose tours about 8 months out of the year, so bands don't really get the chance to stay, anymore. Less bands practice at my spot, but it still very much exists to this day, and has for quite some time.
Yeah, well, I think the thing that you hit on, and I think so many scenes have this where it's just like, oh yes, like when you roll through town and you are, maybe just one person removed away from Isaac, like, you hit him up and you stay with him. And like those hubs are really integral to, keeping the scene like healthy, and like the fact that bands can come through there.
Exactly.
Louisville's clearly, a very musical town, and always has been, and has always had a strong independent music scene, but still like having those, having the ability to put bands up and then obviously have them have shows, like putting that all together is a really, really difficult thing to sustain. So it's just cool that you were able to, do that alongside the support of your dad. It's just really
for sure. Yeah. Like I feel like to this day, and I don't want anyone to get this twisted up at all, I feel extremely like humbled and blessed to have the upbringing that I did. I know that I am in a minority, and I feel super lucky because I know a lot of people that are in positions nowhere near that. So I always wanted to do my best to help out bands and help other bands get out there, help other bands record, give bands a place to stay, cook them fucking pancakes in the morning or fucking whatever.
Right.
Like I would do, like, I would always do that because I knew that I was in a good spot. Like I've always been in a good spot, like in a good position where I liked what was going on, where I was lucky. Because some people have parents that are the opposite of supportive, and everything is going against them, and, so sometimes I feel like, why do I deserve this upbringing? Why do I deserve this? But I've always done my best to try to never take it for granted and use what I have in front of me and to create positive experiences for myself and for everyone, and to try to grow Louisville and try to, grow, the music scene around me as well as I can. And I think that I've done the best I can in that regard. And I hope to keep doing that,
Yeah, no, it's really cool. I appreciate you walking me through that, because it is important, and it's cool that you have that perspective. So I guess kind of in turn, when did, considering your location to, a cool independent music scene, when did, I guess kind of straight edge kind of come into your radar?
So when I was young, I knew about straight edge. I think the first band that introduced me to straight edge was a very relevant band in 2019, which is Have Heart.
Yes.
Have Heart was the band that everybody liked, and it was metalcore kids, indie kids, hardcore kids. They all wore Have Heart sweatshirts. And they were all like kids that didn't listen to that much hardcore even. It was like all Have Heart. I was introduced to them. I was introduced to videos of their last show, introduced, to their music at a very young age, considering. And I found out about straight edge through them. And that's when the idea of straight edge always came into my life. And, it kind of coincided with the fact that when I was young and playing in bands, a lot of the bands that I was in when I was about 14, 15, around that era, like coming into high school, whatever, freshman year, sophomore year, a lot of the bands I was in were filled with party people that were in college or that age. So I was the 15-year-old hanging around the 21-year-olds. And I would be in circles where alcohol and, all that, I don't need to get into that. Everyone knows what I'm talking about. But just like where all of that stuff was involved, and it always made me very uncomfortable. It was never something that I was into at all. And I was kind of looking for a name to put on that. I think I never really understood why I felt the way that I felt. And so straight edge always made sense to me and really resonated with me from a young age. But I was actually afraid to claim, because I was afraid of getting made fun of, because, there's a lot of people that would make fun of a 17-year-old claiming edge,
Yep.
Oh, dude, that doesn't it doesn't mean anything. Like, what are you talking about, dude? Like, there's still people I know that are like that. A lot less so now, but I was afraid to claim. And then when I was like 18 years old, I felt the decision to actually make the decision to start speaking out about it. And it's always felt good and correct since. So,
go ahead. No, I was just going to say, I appreciate you walking me through that, because I do think that there is that, especially once you have labeled yourself as such, and there's this, it's, when you are involved in, that youth culture movement, and then you start to, you go to shows and, people start talking about sellouts and people who aren't this anymore. And you start to realize the, importance that is placed on, not only the label, but the way that people react to others who either do or do not have that label. And it's such a loaded thing that I do understand the reticence that you have, because it's I think I started claiming edge when I was 15, and I wasn't getting judged, but I definitely had people who were just like, well, of course you're not going to drink. You're 15. And it's well, but
shit. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but there are many of my peers who are totally fine getting drunk and, clearly can get alcohol under the age of 21.
Yeah, exactly. I always thought, and that's always something I wanted to bring up to people, even when I was 17, it's older kids giving you flack for being straight edge when you're so young. It's you can't even drink yet. I was just oh, I can drink, dude. Yeah. I can fucking drink if I wanted to. Like, don't tell me I can't.
I live in Kentucky, dude. Come on.
Yeah, exactly. There's nothing to fucking do besides drink, dude. Don't start telling me that I can't find alcohol in Oldham County High School, 30 minutes outside of Louisville, Kentucky. Like, really?
Totally. I got moonshine in a bathtub, dude.
Straight up. So but I was afraid because I cared about what people thought. And I was also afraid of what other people were doing. Alcohol and drugs and seeing it in my circle of friends made me uncomfortable. Which we can cycle back to this later, which is why the title track of our new record actually means a lot to me. It's actually like pretty deeper than that. It's something that resonates with me today. But I was afraid. I was afraid of alcohol, and I was afraid of substance abuse. I was afraid of people that did it. And I was afraid of being mocked for being straight edge when I was young. But when I learned to own it and learned to speak up for myself, I really felt like I came into my own and grew confidence in a different way. And it's been a positive thing in my life ever since.
Yeah, no, that's great. Yeah, I identify with that. I mean, there's no reason that me as a 38-year-old person, needs to quote unquote claim edge anymore. But at the same time, it's incredibly meaningful to me. And I still apply that label, even though adults don't need to do that, because you can just say you don't drink, but clearly we've come up through this particular scene and this lens. And so there's no way that I would ever shed that label because of all the things that you're talking about, where it's just I'm comfortable in my own skin. I'm comfortable in this decision that I've made. And so, I appreciate you walking me through that thought process, as a younger person, because that is a really a difficult thing to, grasp and understand. And like you said, the name of your EP, that, when fear turns to confidence, it's then you're just I'm Edge, of course. This is who I am.
Yeah. It was like a coming of age thing. It was coming into my own and realizing that I needed to take action and speak for myself. And it really did a positive thing for me. It made me feel a lot better. And so it was just growing into it. It was kind of making that choice and learning that it was the right decision.
Yeah, for sure. And so what kind of, once you were consumed by music, clearly, you've mentioned in other interviews where you're just I always wanted to play music, and whatever that meant, that's what I would follow. Was there any other sort of path in regards to hey, maybe Isaac will, be a veterinarian or so? Was there any, did you care about school, or how was that kind of,
There was nothing besides music. Okay. There was nothing. And not that I sucked at school. I wasn't an asshole. I wasn't a kid that was a dick to teachers. I've always been kind of socially awkward and nervous, and I would sit in the back and I would answer all the questions and I would be nice. And I was never a dick like that or someone that really sucked at school or anything. But I had posters on the wall of bands that I wanted to be since I was a child, and I had a guitar in my hand and, piano and all this shit. And my mom tells me to this day, oh, I remember when you were 8 years old, you would look at a Metallica poster and you'd be I want to do that. And that's all that there was. There was never any alternative. And my parents, they accepted that. They just rolled with it. They were oh, okay. Because I guess I just wasn't having it. I wasn't having anything else. There was never an argument or an awkward conversation. It was just well, I'm going to try to find a way to create an outlet where I can do this, in any way possible. And so I was whether it's recording, I learned to record. Whether it's, being in a band, I learned to be in a band, and through just trying over and over again, luckily, incredibly, I found an outlet from a very, very young age to be able to do that. And I'd feel I definitely worked for it, but I feel I got extremely lucky because to this day, I still can't really believe the position that I'm in, and I feel extremely grateful and lucky to be where I am now, where I get the chance to play music and make a living off of playing music. And it's something that I've literally never taken for granted. But there was nothing other that I wanted to do. If Knocked Loose ended right now, which is my main gig, there would just be something else and I would just start over. And as of right now, I could see myself going down other avenues of music, possibly getting into more things than just playing in a band. But it's still my main goal in life is to do it. I've never had a grown up moment yet. I'm only 21. I can't speak for myself a couple years down the road, but
sure, of course.
I've never had an inkling of a moment where I was like, yeah, this is going to end. This is going to stop. Like by all means, I can see myself being 45 and fucking, and just fucking, oh yeah, he's still doing it, and just getting made fun of by every other 45-year-old. But like, hey, I guess he's doing what he's doing.
Yeah. Well, I think
I've always been inspired by older people that were in that situation. Like I was like, it just only made sense to me. Like, okay, Metallica is in their 50s, 60s now. And then I was like, people would try to tell me like, hey, like, you just can't go do that, right? Like you have to be a real human. And I would be like, but Metallica isn't. So
right.
Why do I have to? And so, which is a stupid, stupid way to reason that. But when I was a kid, that's what I thought like. And it has worked out and I've been lucky enough to be where I am. And so, music was always my thing and I always wanted to continue with it. And hardcore punk rock metal music is still my one love that I come back to every single time. So
yeah. No, that's cool. I mean, and I think to your point, I think it's one of those things that, even, as your life evolves and changes where it's like, whatever, Knocked Loose is not a band in 3 years or whatever, you would, like you mentioned, there would be something else that you would do in its place. So it's like, even if you're like, oh yeah, like, they'll get a job, but like, I'll always be writing music and I'll always be recording. And I think that,
oh, for sure. Yeah.
Right. And I think because a lot of people, look at that and would view in certain aspects like there's a failure in there, but it's like, no, like you could be existing.
It's a chance. It's another chance for you to start something else.
Totally. And you can also the thing that makes me sad is when people, leave their passions by the wayside and like, because they feel like they don't have the time and, and understandably so, I get why people have to move on from certain aspects of their life, but you still got to hold on to that thing, like
yes,
if you're super into building Legos, like, dude, don't give that up. Like just
fucking build the Legos, man. Like, yeah. Goddamn.
Totally. No, totally. So, as you started to get out there and, tour and, once Knocked Loose became, more of a, I guess, nationwide act, as it were, I guess for you, when did it kind of feel like it started to become more real? Was it, the idea that once you signed to Pure Noise or like once you, were doing your own headlining show, or it doesn't even have to be those like big check marks that bands have throughout their life. For you, when did it kind of be like, oh, wow, this is much bigger than anything I've ever experienced before?
So we did what every other band did, at the time. I was in a couple bands and I've pretty much consistently been in a couple bands ever since I was young, even younger than I am now. But Knocked Loose was a band that I was in that I started with a bunch of my older friends, and we were just doing what every other band did. We put out a record at a local label, on a local label called Little Heart Records, which is an extremely important label for Louisville. And we played, a release show, played a bunch of local hardcore shows, and started doing some small tours. The first of which obviously nobody came. The second of which, a couple people came, and basically the real turning point was our friend Travis at the time, who was booking shows, was like, hey, if you guys want to be out on the road and you want to play, I'll book you. Just give me the thumbs up and I will book you shows. Like, I'll do it. And we were just like, for me, I was just like, yeah, let's go. Let's do it. Obviously, let's do it. Let's go now. And so 2014 is when we played our, like, 2013, 2014, we were playing our first shows. And then 2015, I was a senior in high school. And I came to my parents and I was like, Mom, Dad, high school sucks. I want to drop out of public school. I want to finish online, get my credits, and tour all year. And they were like, well, okay.
Wow.
And I dropped out of school in 2015 and got my degree, graduated, and we toured like 10 months out of the year in 2015. And we played tour after tour after tour after tour. January, February, March, April. We did 2 West Coast tours. We did 3 East Coast tours. We did fests. We played with different bands. We would play a show at a venue in Georgia, and we'd be like, hey, and there'd be 40 kids there. And we'd be like, hey, if you like what you see here, we're coming back next month. There's our flyer for the next show on the wall.
Right.
And the next time there'd be 80 kids there. And we just actually played and toured our asses off with as many bands as we could, even if they sounded different. And in 2015, it seemed like things were going pretty well and some people were starting to take notice, and the shows were small, but we were just having a blast doing it, and it just felt right. And in the end of 2015, we played a big fest in Long Island that used to be called Long Island Fest, and now it's called, or was called, Mixtape Fest. Lifetime. No, not Lifetime. The Movie Life, The Movie Life played the show. Incendiary played the show. On Broken Wings played the show. Kill Your Idols played the show.
Nice.
We played this gig, and it was the biggest show we'd ever played. There was probably like between 1,000 to 2,000 kids there, and we were freaking out, like just shaking, like absolutely shook. Most people we've ever played in front of at once. And after that, the dude Jake Z that booked the fest just started repping us real hard, and we got introduced to a bunch of people. Pure Noise started taking notice, and our good friend Will, who records our records, started taking notice, and Jake Z, who books our band, started taking notice, and we sort of built this team around us of dudes that saw that we were trying our best to grind it out so hard for, a couple of years. And then once that started happening, it was just a rush. And pretty much for the past, until this year, for the past, I think 3-4 years now, at least 3, it's been touring at least 8 months out of the year, doing something every season. We put out our debut record in 2016, and we've just been touring ever since. And it's kind of just been a rush that's been pretty consistent the whole time. Just feeling like you're going through the motions, because for me, this was like all I wanted to do the whole time. So for me, I was just like, oh, I'm finally getting to do what I want. This is insane. But yeah, it really took a turn in 2015 when
that felt real. So when you guys were, so you were basically just like, who was booking those shows for you guys? Like, were you just basically hustling on your own?
We were hustling on our own with the help of our friend, Travis Porter from Ohio. And he was just booking us with like tours with bands that wanted to tour with us, or bands from Louisville. We toured with that band No Zodiac from Chicago.
Oh, yeah.
We toured with...
Explore new cultures and experiences with Intrepid Travel. Intrepid specializes in socially conscious travel with over 900 amazing small group adventures to choose from in more than 100 countries. Whether it's the mountaintop vistas of the Andes, the wildlife of Tanzania, or the hidden noodle bars of Vietnam, Intrepid is there. There to get you off the beaten track, behind the scenes, and totally immersed in the joy of travel. Discover more at intrepidtravel.com. Intrepid Travel. Travel is back for good.
On game night, there's only one food delivery service that's a slam dunk, a home run, a hole-in-one, a touchdown. Sorry, I got a bit carried away there. It's Grubhub. For game night eats, late night treats, and sweet and salty faves you crave, lazy lunches, delicious family dinners, and more, it's all about the Grubhub. We all have days when cooking just isn't in the cards. Grubhub is there when you need it most, offering up everything you want from national favorites to the best-kept secret spots in town, ensuring that there's truly something for everyone. Right now, Amazon Prime members get a year of Grubhub Plus for free, so you pay $0 in food delivery fees when you order from your favorite restaurants. Visit goforgrubhub.com/Amazon for details. And of course, with the holidays right around the corner, Grubhub gift cards are the perfect gift for everyone on your list. Who doesn't love the gift of food? Order online at grubhub.com or download the Grubhub app from your app store. Place your order and streamline your order and future food deliveries. That's grubhub.com or the Grubhub app. Go for Grubhub.
Hey, it's Ray, the host of this very podcast. And let me ask you a question. What if you had insights into your genetics that could help empower you to live healthier? How would you use that knowledge? You can hear me talk about insights from my DNA that have affected my personal health journey on this season of the podcast Spit from iHeartRadio and 23andMe. Host Baratunde Thurston, which, by the way, incredible dude, has a podcast called How to Citizen. I can't highly recommend that any more than I am right now, but listen to that and listen to this podcast. But he explores how more and more people are finding out that DNA is about more than just ancestry. It's a key to understanding your health. Your genetic profile can tell you if you are at an increased likelihood for developing a particular condition. It's knowledge that can help you make smarter choices about your health and your lifestyle. On this season of Spit, you'll hear me and 22 other podcasters and influencers discuss what genetics revealed about our health and how that knowledge can impact the way we live our lives. Listen to my episode out now on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Another Mistake from Louisville. We toured with Orthodox from Tennessee. We toured with Vice from Staten Island. So like New York hardcore bands, Louisville hardcore bands, beatdown bands, metalcore bands.
Yeah, you
like,
didn't care. It was everything.
It didn't matter. Like we just wanted to play pop punk shows, like fucking jump in place metalcore shows. Like it didn't matter. Like we would just play whatever. And we've done that since. It doesn't matter what the tour is. You know, it's just like we want to put ourselves out there as much as possible. If it means scaring people, we'll scare people. If it means
right.
They like it, means they like it. If they don't, they don't. And that's just what we've done since. So for a couple of years, it's just been that.
In a world where everyone is confined to their homes, society begins its largest binge watch to date. In the hallowed library of Hulu, or perhaps on a shelf of DVDs you haven't looked at in a decade, is a show that perfectly encapsulates life in the early aughts and launched a friendship that would inspire millions. Hi, I'm Zach Braff.
And I'm Donald Faison.
In 2001, we starred in Scrubs, a sitcom that revealed a glimpse of what it was like to survive a medical internship. As Turk and JD, we explored guy love.
Nearly 20 years later, a lot has changed. We're not Supermen, but we're still best friends. Given the mandatory lockdown, there's no better time to relive the series that brought us together in the first place. And we're doing it with a podcast.
That's right, people. We're going to bring friends and crew members and fellow cast members and writers. And guess what? We're going to even invite some of you to call into the podcast and ask all the questions you want of the entire Sacred Heart staff.
Join us for Fake Doctors, Real Friends on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, and wherever you get your podcasts.
Yeah. No, that's cool. I mean, and honestly, I think where it's like the, you guys are such an interesting band from that perspective, because I think in many respects, like you are, a gateway band now, where it's like you are the first time someone gets exposed to quote unquote hardcore. And and from sort of a older person, holier than thou attitude, where it's like, less hate gets sprung on you guys now than it did, a couple of years ago, where it's just like,
it comes in phases.
It
comes and goes in phases for sure.
It's true.
Right now, I think we're in a cool phase. I can't wait for the bad phase to come.
Right.
And they come in phases, and it's funny to see it happen.
It's true, because I think, it's real easy for people to like poke their heads in and like, look at you guys and be just like, oh, look at these, children tourists, and like, could talk to me in a couple of years, and I'm obviously being being that voice, even though I don't believe that personally. But yeah, I find it so interesting that when you are able to expose the fact, like, well, yeah, like we're a real band, like we've put work into this. This isn't something.
Yeah,
that,
exactly. It wasn't like we were. People, I think, have this idea that it just happened, like we were just created and signed,
Totally.
we didn't play the hardcore shows, that like we didn't play the gigs, but like, no, we actually played and toured for a pretty long time before shit started happening. And even though I get it, like we started playing bigger shows within like 2-3 years for sure, but we still grinded that whole time, so It didn't come out of nowhere, and we were around playing with bands for a minute. So
yeah. And this may be, a very large blanket question, but like, does the, like once business started to creep into the band, where, you're making money at shows and, signing to labels and, making money off merch and stuff like that. Did that, I guess, scare you? Are you interested in that side of the band? Is it something that, you are growing more comfortable over time with, or what's your relationship with that?
It's hard. It was very hard for us to deal with that. Not in a way that we hated it, but in that it's hard when that stuff creeps into your band, when that kind of side of things creeps up, it's kind of like a growing pain, because I don't really enjoy the business side of it at all. It's not something that I was ever interested in. I didn't, I always wanted to do music for a living. Like I always wanted to do that, but I was never interested in being rich, or like fucking doing it. I wasn't like, oh, I want to play music to be a billionaire. I was like, oh, I want to play music because I want to play it, and I want to play it in front of a lot of people because I love playing music. That was what it was. So it was hard to deal with, and it kind of, it didn't make things tough. It's hard to learn that that's a side of things now. And, but I think that Knocked Loose has also been kind of a journey where we've all been able to grow as people and understand ourselves better, and kind of learn how to work better together. And we've been able to surround ourselves with people that we trust, and people that we appreciate, like friends of ours that we work with. So it's much more comfortable now than it was. But for a minute, it was weird, man, because it was just like, we didn't care about, like we didn't, dudes, it always, dudes would come up to us and be like, hey, sorry, I can't pay you. And we would just always be like,
cool.
Fuck, that sucks, but all right. Sure, the show was sick,
Right.
Like we were never like, oh fuck, we can't get a hotel now. Like no, like we would just, we did what everybody, we slept in the fucking van and played shows that were sometimes cool, sometimes there was nobody there, and that was what it was. And so when guarantees and fucking money and all this shit, business stuff started getting involved, it made me, and I think a couple other people in the band, very uncomfortable. But yeah, you grow into learning, it's just like becoming an adult. There are certain things that you have to start doing, like paying taxes or paying bills that suck at first. And then you kind of just grow to be like, oh, okay, well, this is just how it is now. And that's just how it was for Knocked Loose. There was stuff that we didn't know about, we didn't think about, and now they're a part of our lives, but we never dwell on it. It was just, it all comes back to playing music, playing hardcore, playing fucking heavy shit. And that's what it's always been about. And that's what it'll always be about.
Yeah, for sure. No, that makes sense. There's also something I find, equally as interesting about the way that you guys carry yourselves, frankly, as, young people within the context of the scene and hardcore in general, where, because the easy and obvious target that most people, that are whatever over the age of 27 usually say about the young kids is like, oh man, they got no context for what came before them. And,
for sure.
But like you guys have not only leaned into it because you are personally fans of this stuff, but leaned into it in a way where it's like, clearly you don't need to wear disembodied shirts on stage to let a 15-year-old boy who has just been to like Warped Tour for the first time and saw Knock Loose, he'll see that disembodied shirt and be kind of like, huh, that's interesting, I might have to check that out or whatever.
That's the point,
right?
That's the fucking point. And there's a huge conversation there, right? Because to a lot of people there's a huge keep other people out mentality, that's always existed. I feel like it exists way less now than it did back then, but I'm sure about that more than anyone, there's a huge, I don't want new kids to come into this. Why would I want other people to know about this thing that I have, keep new jocks out,
Right.
But that's the opposite of what I think should be happening. It's why I think bands, that are playing out and doing shit in the hardcore scene are the fucking sickest bands, Turnstile, Power Trip, Cruel Hand, when they were doing fucking cross genre stuff. That shit is so sick. Right. Having a kid, you're changing someone's life right there. You're introducing them to something that they either fucking hate and they'll remember for the rest of their lives as being like, oh, that band that was yelling at me and was super scary. Or they're going to fall in love with it. They're going to experiment with it and they're going to find something new. And I think that that's beautiful. I think that that's fucking so cool. And we wear fucking old hardcore shirts on stage. And we don't do it on purpose. We do it because those are the bands that we like. Right. And then when someone comes up to us and was like, hey, I'm just getting into, it happens to me all the time. Kids come up to me saying, hey, I'm new to hardcore, man. I just you guys were the first hardcore band I listened to. And I'm really into bands like that. I'm really into bands like Knock Loose and Rotting Out and Backtrack. And I'll be like, dude, that is so sick. I also love Rotting Out and Backtrack. Here, listen to this band that Rotting Out and Backtrack came from, listen to an older band, for straight edge kids, it's just different bands for different people. But I'm here, and I think a lot of it has to do with where I grew up. Is I'm here to show and share with other people. I'm not here to be a part of a exclusive club. I'm here to be inclusive, and I'm here to share with other people, and Knock Loose is here to share with other people. We don't care who we play with. We love hardcore music. We love other music too, and we're here to teach other people and learn more ourselves about hardcore music. And that's what it's always been, and that's what it always will be. It's just it's a super positive, super inclusive experience, and I've always wanted to feel like that.
Sure. Well, I think, to your point too, it's one of those things, if you become too insular where you are I'll never forget hearing, that band Ensign, they played Southern California a million times. Yep, and I saw them for sure many times. But I remember the vocalist Tim Shaw, he would always say on stage, this, it's really important what happens in this room. Clearly the messages that we share, the fun that we have, it's all important. But it isn't until you take that out into the real world and start to either bring more people into these rooms, or by you as a person, from all these values that you have learned from this particular scene or whatever, they start to impact people in ways that you would never be able to see. And so, to your point, bringing more people into the thing and having a larger tent to, pull from, it isn't the fact like, oh yeah, we want this thing, because I don't care. Aggressive music is never going to be, like Taylor Swift. Never. It will never be.
Yeah, it's just not the thing. No. It's not the thing. So, if a band that is hardcore, that still is proclaiming hardcore and representing it gets huge, like that's fucking awesome.
Totally.
That's not a shot thing. That's super tight,
Right. Well, I mean, dude, look at Rise Against. It's like you're looking at a band like that, and they are.
It's one of my favorite bands of that ilk.
Yeah,
it's literally one of my favorite bands of that type.
Yeah,
sure.
And you go to one of their shows, and you see people who are profoundly impacted by the political message that the band has, and then you have people who are just there to drink and have fun. And it's like, on one hand, I'm like, oh man, it's a bummer that, not everybody is influenced on a deep, deep level by the band. But it's like, dude, they're playing to so many people and they're changing lives literally every time they play. And that,
exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah,
and there's hardcore bands that there's doing that. There's punk bands that are doing that. And I think that it's super cool when it happens in a hardcore scene in 2019. I think it's the coolest thing. So it's something that I've always loved and will always be a part of for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And the last couple of things I want to hit on before I let you go was you seem and you strike me as a person who, you're driven in the sense of you've always had this idea that you wanted to play music in whatever, fashion that would take, you'll follow. But you seem to be really, really prolific where, you're writing music constantly, and it doesn't even necessarily need to be for, Knock Loose or Inclination or whatever. Has that always just been kind of like hardwired in you, whether it's like the work ethic or whether it's just really fun for you to sit there and write songs?
It's just always been what I want to do at pretty much any given time, like for sure. There are times now when I get home from a tour and for a couple of days, I'm like, yeah, I want to chill. I want to watch TV, as anyone would do. But man, it's always there. And it's just always, whether it's like I want to do it or not at that specific time, it's just something I feel like I have to do. There's no question of if I'm going to the show or not. I'm just going. There's no question of if I'm starting the band or not. I'm just starting it. It's just always been there. It's always been what I've wanted to do. Everything seems like an opportunity to do something cool. And so I've just always viewed it in that way. I've never really viewed it as a way to, it was never something that was like going to be done for a short period of time or something like that. It was always something that I've wanted to do consistently. So yeah, it's something that's always been there, and maybe hardwired is the best way to describe it, but it's always been there, and it's always been necessary, and it's always been fun, basically.
Sure. Yeah, you're like, hey, this is fun to sit here with my guitar and write songs, like as opposed to, like you mentioned, at some point, I'm sure that, can feel like more of a task than other times, but just the fact that it's still, fun, like that's something you can look into.
Yeah, it's always sick,
Right.
I write breakdowns for a living, kind of. That's
Totally.
like kind of a job description.
Yeah.
Is like sorta, and that's literally sounds like the most badass thing in the world. So
right.
I don't think that's something that should ever be taken for granted.
Sure. And the last thing I want to hit on was the fact that like you, like once you get out and start to tour and it's really exciting and you get to, be in new places all the time and meet a bunch of new people and, build a community. Have you felt kind of the, I guess the other angle of touring of the, just like missing out on relationships and kind of the struggle that it takes when you are gone so much? Has that been something that you've had to kind of cope with and consider, or has that been something that, you've been able to sort of balance as you get out there more?
Yeah, so it exists for sure. Just have like girlfriends, family, and being away from that amount of time. It's hard sometimes, especially for certain people. For me, a lot of it is being away for, cool shows that are happening in my community. Not being there to hang out with my friends sometimes, but to be like completely, I'm sure some people would say brutally honest, touring is my favorite thing to do in the world. Okay. I appreciate every second and love every minute of it, even if it sucks. I have never, ever been like, man, this fucking sucks. I want to go home. Like, even if the situation is awful, I've never been like that. And that's odd, because a lot of people, that's not normal. Like, I think you're supposed to want to go home sometimes. I think that's the norm, is for people to be like, hey, you know what? The tour is cool, but I want to go home, and that's cool. And you have to find that balance. But for me, I feel like I could be on tour 365 days, and just go straight through. And I'll miss my family. I'll miss the people that I love and hang out with, but I get to see new friends and meet people that I know all over the world every day. And it feels like an adventure pretty consistently. And even when I was sleeping in the van, and fucking sleeping in a van in the middle of fucking nowhere, driving to a show where 5 people would be there, it still felt like that. Like, I was super stoked. Having that connection with people and being able to play music in front of people for a living, or just playing it in general, is like my favorite thing to do in the world. So, yeah, I've always loved it. It's never been hard for me to do that. And like I said, I'm not old, I'm not, I haven't reached that point. Some people reach that point later in their lives, so I can't speak for myself further down the road. But as of right now, it's like, man, this is so cool what I get to do. Like, why would I spend even a second of time that I have here in this great position thinking that I maybe want to do something else, like that's not something, it would feel not genuine to me. So,
well, I think to your point, I think it is one of those things where you're viewing it in a way like these are opportunities that you can't say no to. And even though that removes you from, being, stable at home, whatever you want to call it, you're viewing it as these are opportunities where, in whatever 5-10 years, like those opportunities may not exist there. So you want to, strike while the iron is hot, so to speak.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. Everything is an opportunity. And like I said, it's like work fast, work hard. If Knocked Loose was to stop, there would be another thing that I would do, and sure. I would work just as hard. I would start from scratch. I would start from the beginning. I will use whatever connection I have to do as much as I can, play for people, and just have a blast. That's always what it's been about. So
yeah, for sure. The last thing I want to hit on was the idea that, clearly juggling a lot of stuff. I mean, playing an Inclination and, doing Knocked Loose and all this stuff kind of, coexisting. Is there, I guess, any aspect of your life that like music is not connected to, or basically is it like, nah, that's pretty much all I got?
That's what I do.
Okay. just wanted to make sure.
Do.
Sure.
That's what I do. Yeah. I mean, I go on tour and I come home from tour and I write more music and I play more shows and I play in more bands and I create more music. And then I go back on tour again and then make plans for the next time I'm home to do more of that.
Right.
It revolves around it. I'm doing it literally 100% of the time. I have stuff to do every day that has to do with it. Like I'm home. I was just home for about a month, about a month. I had about a month to a month and a half of Knocked Loose break time, which is crazy long for us. And I started like 4 bands and, and I finished about half of the records that I wanted to. So I'm already making plans for when I'm back next time to keep going. And yeah, I'm always looking for opportunities to keep doing more stuff and keep getting out there. And yeah, it's really, really cool to be able to say that I am where I am right now. And I'm super stoked about it because I think music is literally the only thing that I do. And that's all I want for right now. So
yeah. No, that's really cool. It's just fun because you can pour not only your youthful enthusiasm, but you can pour the, the ideas that you can implement towards all this. And like, it gives you the ability to, to start 4 bands and, write different styles of heavy music and stuff like that. And, how do your, I promise this is the last thing, but how do your,
let me cut you off real quick. I am not doing anything else. So if you want to punish me about anything else, I will talk for another hour about whatever you want to talk about. So
no,
just putting that out there.
I appreciate that. I promise this will be the last thing, but just the notion of the, where your parents sit with the views of, what the life that you've built so far, just like, completely centered around music. And like you say, your parents are incredibly supportive and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I presume your mom and dad have like come to your shows and like, is your younger brother, like, is he influenced at all by, punk and hardcore and stuff like that? Just, where does that all end up?
My little brother used to come to shows when he was, basically when I was in high school. He used to come to shows with me and my dad sometimes, and he was into it just like we were. He would mosh and do all this stuff, and he would like stage dive and do all this cool shit. He went another route eventually. Like he grew out of it. He's like a huge sports guy now. He's like going to college. He's doing sports stuff. He's in another state right now. But yeah, he's still fucking sick. He stopped going to shows, which is totally cool. He's a total poser, dude. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, dude. Fake as fuck. But yeah, he's doing his own thing. My mom and my dad just they come to shows when they can, but they kind of just watch me go. They have always been like, oh yeah, well, he's doing that. So, and I've been lucky enough to kind of forge my own path and, make my own decisions and kind of lead my own way. But they've been there 100% of the way. And if I knew that if I needed help at any point, they would be here to help. But, yeah, I've been kind of lucky enough to kind of, find my own way and, kind of lead my own life, so to speak, and have them just support me, but from a distance where they get to watch it happen. And they've always been extremely proud and extremely happy for me. And that's like more than I could ever ask for. So,
yeah, totally. Yeah. Cause they're, parents can understand to a certain extent, but like, they're not going to, your dad is, clearly not the best example because he dove into it with you pretty head first, but like no parents are going to all of a sudden be like, well, every time you play a local show, I'll come out.
Oh,
it's like,
yeah, no, I'm there, dude. I'm moshing for sure.
Yeah. But yeah, so it's just cool that you've been able to, see, or to have, like you said, that support system in order for your parents to be able to, support you, not understand completely what it is that you're doing, but at the same time be like, all right, that's good. Like, you got an apartment, you got a girlfriend, you got, like all of the nuts and bolts.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. And that's exactly what it is. It's just, they're here, they're supportive, they're happy. They're trying to make sure I am not just lying in a ditch somewhere and that I'm good.
Right.
But I spend so much time doing my own thing that they, a lot of times they kind of feel like they're just watching stuff happen. But I try to keep them as included as possible because I'm super appreciative of them. And I think that they know that, and they're here for me all the time, and it's super, super, humbling and awesome. So yeah, I couldn't ask for a better situation.
Yeah, no, that's cool. Well, Isaac, I really appreciate you hanging out. This has been really fun for me. So thanks for,
of course,
thanks for sharing all the stuff you did.
Likewise. Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
Oh boy, that was a great conversation, right? I just, there's something about that youthful, passion and invigoration. Like, I recognize that in myself where, my passion is definitely still there for a lot of the things that I cared about, but just like, when you see it just all red hot and piping, it's really exciting. And I actually got to meet Isaac in person when they came through on tour recently, like I mentioned a couple episodes ago. And it was a great great human-to-human connection, and he thanked me profusely for doing this interview. So thank you, Isaac, for coming on the show, and thank you to Austin, the PR person who helped set this all up. What I got next week is another, this was a pretty, I don't know, it just got real deep, real quick, and I loved it. So it's with Jay Pepito, who sang for Reign Supreme, and he also plays bass in a really, really cool hardcore band called End. Jay just was really ready to kind of, audit himself and put a lot of, onus and responsibility on the way that, he treated people in the past. And it wasn't really necessarily something that I was looking to mine. I just met him, maybe a year and a half or so ago. We played some shows together. He was a great person, and I really enjoyed connecting with him. And so I was like, yeah, why don't you come on the show? And so I could tell that he was a little hesitant initially. He was excited to do it, but then once we got into it, it was, wow, it was really, really good. So that's what we got next week. And hopefully next week I'll also be able to share some positive news with all of you. Okay. So please keep me in your thoughts and prayers and whatever it is that you do. But I appreciate your continued support on this weird journey that we are on called life. So until then, please be safe, everybody. Special shout out to SiriusXM because they offer commercial-free music plus sports, talk, comedy, and news. They have it all. And right now, you can get your first 3 months of SiriusXM outside the car for just $1. Go to SiriusXM.com/words to see the offer details and to subscribe. That's SiriusXM, SiriusXM.com/words. The offer is available to new SiriusXM streaming subscribers. SiriusXM, no car required. Okay, now for real. Goodbye.
You've been listening to the Jabberjaw Podcast Network, jabberjawmedia.com. Shh.
Hey, Miles.
Yes.
It's Jack from work.
Yes, hi.
Did you know that we host a daily news and culture podcast where people can go to get caught up on what is happening?
Are you confused about that? You're talking about the Daily Zeitgeist,
I just
the show
wanted
that
to make
we do
sure
every day.
you knew and that everybody knew that you could listen to us every day, twice a day, talk about what is happening, and they could learn everything without feeling the life drained from their soul.
Yeah, I think at the Daily Zeitgeist, we like to give people a balance of just enough news that they feel informed and just enough laughs that they're not overwhelmed and can have a decent day after listening.
So guys, listen to the Daily Zeitgeist on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever fine podcasts are given away for free.
Explore new cultures and experiences with Intrepid Travel. Intrepid specializes in socially conscious travel with over 900 amazing small group adventures to choose from in more than 100 countries. Whether it's the mountaintop vistas of the Andes, the wildlife of Tanzania, or the hidden noodle bars of Vietnam, Intrepid is there. There to get you off the beaten track, behind the scenes, and totally immersed in the joy of travel. Discover more at intrepidtravel.com. Intrepid Travel. Travel is back for good.
People who don't know Bruce have to understand two things. One is he's built like something Michelangelo has carved out of a piece of marble.
True, this is true.
And number two, he's the first person to show you that at every party, at every dinner.
Maybe take a shirt off.
I'm Bruce Bozzi. That was George and Julia. You may not know me yet, but you already know most of my lunch dates by their first names and voices alone. Listen to Table for Two on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Happy holidays. My podcast on iHeart has brought me together with friends both old and new. Want to know how fashion designer Michael Kors built his iconic American brand? Aren't you curious how rapper Snoop Dogg and I really became good friends? Catch up on the Martha Stewart podcast this holiday season on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts.